This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about globalism versus internationalism. Globalism is a term thrown around to describe the order, I would say the rules-based international order, controlled by a neoconservative and a neoliberal elite, which means an order based in the military power and also with the military and financial power, financial globalization. That's what globalism means. Global governance dictated by a centralized power, and that centralized power has a name, and the name is the Pax Americana, is the American imperialism, which so when many people, especially the libertarians, people on the libertarian mindset, they usually talk about and other people that have they are right wing, they have right wing values, and but they talk about the globalist elite as if the globalist elite was not capitalist, as if the globalist elite doesn't defend the same system, the existing system that allowed them to control the world, to create the organizations, the international organizations like the Bretton Woods institutions, the IMF and the World Bank, and other organizations like the WTF, the and other organizations that have been used to protect and to enhance the interests of this global elite that so many people criticize them and call them I mean, they criticize them as they being globalists, the people that want to control the world through war and of course through economic and financial coercion, imperialism. But this order is caused by capitalism. There are the capitalist values and the capitalist values which means that the need to expansion and conquer and control, and the need to expand markets, to control resources and territories and people, nations and countries. That's why the intelligence services, these kind of secret military powerful agencies, are required to overthrow governments, the problem with the libertarians, that it to me, especially the libertarians on the right side of the political spectrum, but also the libertarians on the left side of the political spectrum. But in this case, it's more of the right spectrum, because the right side of the political spectrum, because it's the people that really believe in capitalism and the free markets, that the government should not interfere with the markets, because this idolization of the markets, as if the markets have this power of regulating that our economy should be regulated only by the offer and by offer and demand, which of course it's not how any market works. There is no market, and this seems to be really many people do not understand it. There is no market outside of the state regulations, because a market needs to be regulated. What we produce, how we what are we allowed to extract from nature? Okay, everything, there is safety and security matters about everything. So, and financial markets and all this financialization, this is everything. If this is not regulated, we have a shadow banking system that is already more important, that has a share of activity, and it's basically unregulated, and is destroying the economy. This is destroying our societies, and the libertarians, they too tell us as if we don't need regulation. No, it's just the law of the market, the free market. That is absolute nonsensical. It doesn't work. And these same people are against globalists. What do the globalists want? The globalists want control. But these people the libertarians, they seem not to want, they be opposed to control, but if you leave the private sector, the pursuit of self-interest, the maximization of profits, and then the accumulation of wealth, because if you have no regulations, there will be people which they do not understand, they seem not to understand or do not care at all. There are a lot of people that they have psychopathic and sociopathic tendencies, and they don't care what they have to do in order to accumulate wealth and private property. So how can we criticize the globalists? Okay, they want to have control. Okay, over and the wars is for the control of resources and for the control of countries and the economic structures and international institutions and everything else. That's for sure. That's what they want. They are imperialists, but they are also capitalists, and they love the free market, because what they call the free market doesn't exist, is a fiction, and therefore they can have a rigged system. But the libertarians, they defend a free system, the free market, without noticing or omitting that a free market will always end up giving a few people the opportunity to accumulate and to rig the system. Because those are the people with personality traits that will make them control the system, control the international trade, international banking, international finance, and use the military and the intelligence to control everything. So we cannot. That's why these people do not understand, and we should. I mean, we the people, those of us that live paycheck to paycheck, I mean, workers, working poor, middle class, should not buy into this rhetoric, because this idea that I mean, I'm against globalism, but what I'm trying to say, the globalist, so-called globalist order, which is the globalization, neoliberal global order, it's not about free market, it's about the control, it's about the ability to dictate from Washington, DC, or the Pentagon, and Wall Street, basically, dictate the rules for the rest of the world, or dictate the global governance. That's what they have been doing throughout 4 decades at least. So, if we do not acknowledge or putting it in a different way, if those who talk against the globalist elite and against globalism, and they do not acknowledge that this globalist elite is a capitalist elite, okay, they are not being honest. Or by the way, they might have giving you the idea that even if it is a capitalistic order, is not really capitalism. It is a monopoly game. It can be many things, but it's not real capitalism, because real capitalism is free market. No. First, free markets don't exist, is a fiction. And capitalism is about the unlimited accumulation, no limits to the accumulation of wealth, no limits to the accumulation of private property. And by the way, private property is not a natural right. John Locke was wrong. That's not a human right. Private property is not a human right, is not a natural right. Private property is a legal invention that makes us hostages of a system that transforms us into tools to those who really control the wealth. So, private property, we might I don't want you to, it's not about being, I'm not, what I'm discussing here, what I'm trying to clarify here is not that being against or for the private property, okay? It is that the capitalist system, it is about no limits, because it's about the idea of free market. The free market idea these people talk about is the idea that all wealth that you are able to accumulate belongs to you. So every piece of property that you can acquire belongs to you, and nobody else should have the ability to take it away from you or to control you or whatever. And this sounds fair, this sounds natural, but it is not, because in every community or country or civilizational paradigm that you allow this to become the top laws, the principles and values by which society works and the economy works, this means that you always end up being controlled by oligarchs and plutocrats. And then they don't want to share with you, they don't want to have a fiscal policy that helps to take away from them wealth by the state in order to use that wealth. By the way, it would be good that we could understand that taxes, the fiscal policies, the fiscal policies is not required to fund the state and the governments, as most of us believe. All of us say that they have to do this, they do this, they fund these wars with the taxpayer money. That's not true. That is another fallacy, very helpful. A very helpful fallacy to make us believe that the state is the enemy, the government is the enemy. Taxes, the function of taxes is to take money from the economy, and also, if in the case of taxing the rich, is to take their wealth away from them, which means that taxation is not to finance any social program or war. It's just the way the state, the government, can use to destroy money, as they used to do in other ways, like they used in the United Kingdom tally sticks, for example. They registered the debts. So this is because a government and the state that is sovereign, it should have also sovereign money. And then you have a sovereign monetary system, means that you are the government, the state, or some particular institutions like the treasury have the ability, or a central bank in the name of the national treasury, have the power to issue money. So the money creation should be controlled, and it is controlled by the state when the state is sovereign. And there is no political sovereignty, because these things all work together. You cannot enjoy political sovereignty if you don't have monetary sovereignty. That is the case that is happening that's what they did with the invention of the euro. What they did, it was the ability to take away from every single country the ability to control their own monetary policy that is now controlled by the ECB. So every single country that uses the euro lost the ability to issue their own money and control their own currency. So this is what the sovereign money means, because this confusion about the taxes, it is an important one, and it's used by everyone. You know, that's all. Even the left doesn't they don't talk about this with clarity. There is no really, and we, the public in general, we should really understand, because we need to understand how a sovereign country with a sovereign currency works, how money is created, who creates it, and how, and how and why. You know, for example, the government creates money by for example, by paying services or by building infrastructure. When the government writes the check to pay, that check goes to the central bank, and then the money is created, or to the treasury, and the money is created in the banking account to pay. So that money is created, is introduced in the real economy through paying for services, or for labor, or for infrastructure. That's how it really works. The money doesn't come from taxes. So, why does it matter for the understanding of globalism versus internationalism? It is because these people, the globalist elite, they want to take away the power of every state. It is the ability to use, it was the ability to use, and it was, and it still is, the ability to use the dollar, okay, as a tool for centralized power, to centralize the power, economic power, financial power, and dictate the global governance. It has never been about to have a global government. That was too much. That was. It is. If you can understand that, it will be very difficult to have a global government. People don't even understand that how difficult it would be to make it work. Globalization has been always about the globalist project by that globalist elite that want from the Western powers, the Western not Western powers, the Western capitalist elites to control the global markets, to expand and reinforce their control of the global economy through the control of the global markets by the Western capitalist class. Of course, they need the cooperation and the complicity of the rich class, the oligarchs and plutocrats, and governments and political elites that want to enrich themselves at the cost of impoverishing their own peoples. That has been happening all over the world. And this is not exactly, this has nothing to do with so this has been the modus operandi of the imperialist, colonialist and neo-colonialist Western system that used the international system. You know, they made these international institutions controlled by the Western powers, especially the United States of America, in order to have this capitalist, and by capitalist I again emphasize that is the ability to use the institutions to use economic institutions, the economic international system or global system, to use the political system, to use all institutions and organizations, the existing ones or the newly created ones, in order to funnel the wealth, the capital, to this big, to this internationalist, not internationalist, globalist elite that was and this still is controlled by the West. Once we understand this, how this order, this global order, you start to be less susceptible to be influenced by people. Once we start to understand how this international, this globalist system functions, and that's how centralized it is, and how it is against any policy that is for the well-being of the communities, any policy that's for the sovereign control of resources, sovereign economy. You know, that's but it's not, the problem is that in so many countries, most countries of the world, there are elites that they do not mind disease. If there is treason, this is treason when the elites, they do side with the plunderers, with the international plunderers. They help them to take control of the national economies. I could name people that have done it and are doing it right now. But this is not about naming people. This is about understanding systems. This is about our ability to understand how this globalist system works and how the institutions, the existing institutions, they have been created or they have been weaponized and transformed into these machines to help them to accumulate more wealth and to have more control over the global over the world system, over countries. And this is that is why we need to understand it in a way that most libertarians, especially the right-wing libertarians, they do not want you to understand. They don't want you to understand that we cannot get rid of the state, because there is no, how can you organize a society and an economy and the countries that as we have today, the world divided in countries, if we don't have the state, if we don't have a government. There is no, it's clear to me that anarcho-primitivists are delusional, and anarcho-capitalists are, in a certain sense, they are not, they are the enemies, because they even want a system. They and then there are the techno aristocrats, the techno aristocracy of today's reality, which they want to have to establish themselves as the elite, as the aristocratic elite that should control the world. These tech oligarchs, aristocratic elite that should control the world, and they want to. So, what is the difference between globalism and internationalism in a multipolar world order? The difference is that internationalism is how we can build a decentralized system that is for the international cooperation. Internationalism is about creating a global order that is not centralized, that is not controlled by any form, any elite, not bureaucratic, not technocratic, okay, no, not by a banking system, a banking cartel, global cartel, or financial cartel, not by this, because these people are rentiers, they are rent seekers, they want to suck the blood out of the economy, of the world economy. They don't want freedom. It is time that if you are a working class, the working poor, and you are middle class, or even some segments of the upper middle class, that you stop believing that the West wants the West, the rules-based international order, this globalist order, is about freedom and democracy. No, it's about a rogue empire and rogue imperialism, which is, and the order, the system, the operating system is capitalism. This is what is capitalism. Capitalism is not about free markets. Okay? Capitalism is exactly about this relentless expansion, relentless need for new markets, expanding for new resources, sources of resources, of raw materials, exploitation of people, resource extraction. For what? This is the purpose, for the purpose of accumulating wealth and for the control of resources, land, territories and peoples. This is not about democracy or freedom. That's why internationalism is an internationalist order. That's not what the libertarians really want. They what they really want, and this is what they should, if they want to be honest. And I find that many there are libertarians that I think they seem to be good people, but they seem to not understand or do not care that if we have a free market that allows, I'm going to repeat it again, that allows people to over time accumulate enough wealth, then will take control. Because usually these people that are driven for the power, they want power and wealth, they will over time, they will use whatever resources they can to instrumentalize people and systems in order to create a legal system that allows them to do it. And as Frederick Bastiat said, a moral code to glorify it. It will happen again and again if we do not have an international order based on cooperation, and that every nation and every individual sees their freedoms and sovereignty respected. I'm not talking about the concept of sovereign individuals. God save us from that. Okay? That's another stupid idea. Not because I don't want to be sovereign, but because it's not what these people... This is why language is so important. You know, the people play with language in order to instrumentalize us, to manipulate perception, to control, to manufacture consent, to weaponize, which means to transform us, or as many of us as possible, into useful idiots and cannon fodder and disposable peons. That's why one of the most important tools, intellectual tools that we need to acquire, is to really understand language. The use of language, the framing. Language framing. How it is so, how crucial it is to avoid being manipulated. Not to manipulate, because if you just wanted to manipulate, you are in the side of those that only want to use everything as a tool to control this whatever system, to control everything. If you are pro-freedom, what you want is not the freedom to accumulate as much wealth as possible. What you want is people to be free, people to have meaningful lives, an economy, a social and ecological economy that works, that can satisfy people's needs within the ecological boundaries. Why should you want to accumulate what you don't need? Why should we be able, if you are a libertarian, you should not be for inheritance rights. Why? Because that's a distortion of what libertarians, the libertarian philosophy should be about. We be free to not to accumulate wealth that we can make our descendants, to be able to use wealth that were not accumulated by them. What kind of justice is that? What kind of equality? What is it? How you see a level playing ground, a socio-economic and cultural level playing ground? Are you honest? Do you want to be intellectually and ideologically honest or not? So, if you are part of the working poor and middle class, which are most of us, for sure, we need to be internationalists, because we don't want a centralized power, because we don't want an elites controlling, but we want order. We want cooperation. We need an international order. We need cooperation. We need control. We need justice. We need trust, and we need truth. But since we are limited, because we all of us, individuals and families, we live locally. We don't live we don't live global lives, okay? We live we have these natural limits, even evolutionary limits. We live in communities. We live locally. We cannot be we can understand global systems, we can understand the global order, we can understand what's going on in the other side of the world, but our lives, our physical lives, our physical existences are local. So so the internationalist order serves us as that we can understand that we are all equals, that we do not need anybody in charge, any chosen people or chosen nation or chosen elite. Okay? What we need is a democratic order, and since we all have similar needs, we need an international order that is established as institutions and organizations that allow us to participate in that global governance. That is a grassroots global governance. We need that global governance, but not for accumulation and control by a globalist elite, by the crème de la crème of the international oligarchy and plutocracy. And that is why we need political agency from the local level to the national level to the international level, and we need to recognize as people, okay, as part of the ordinary citizenry, that this is the only way to achieve an international order that is not globalist. This, in spite of the multipolar order, or in spite, we need to be able to disengage from this great power competition theory, okay, this vision of the world that we cannot escape this competition for power. We can, but we need to think about it. We cannot do it just by allowing ourselves, just by being followers, for example. Okay? Globalism is about disempowering us, that we don't have, we just feel, it's about making us feel helplessness. Okay, that we feel that there is nothing we can do to change, to challenge the existing order. And internationalism is about having this web, creating this web of participatory web that allows us the culture, internationalist culture, is about the developing the consciousness that we all are equals, but not equals in the sense, okay, in this kind of abstract, this as an abstraction, but we are all equals in the sense that in spite of our cultural, gender, race, and whatever differences that divide us, that make us different from each other, from country to country, from region to region, we all share the common. There are a set of problems that we all share, and we are all human beings, and therefore we need to have an international system that works for all of us So I call it, in my perspective, it has to be an ecological, holistic civilization. And the reason I call it holistic is because it needs to be inclusive, it needs to be comprehensive, and it needs to be internationalist. Because it's not about, it's about fighting against any form of superiority, of entitlement, of privilege. It's about it's about making a culture of equality as the dominant narrative, and creating the legal system, an international legal system, international institutions that truly make it work. And we all work towards a civilization, a demilitarized civilization, because we can achieve it. But we cannot achieve it if we have a nationalistic. That's why it is wrong. Nationalism, it's not the solution for globalism, because the people that defend the nationalism, they are not against capitalism. They are not against the coercion by capital accumulation, by control, by social control and economic control of the means of production, of the resources, of people, of transforming people into human resources. This should horrify us. This should horrify all the people that pretend to be freedom fighters, and nevertheless they accept being treated as human resources. And sometimes they don't even understand it, because they don't understand that in a commodified society, which means a society where everything becomes an asset, everything becomes a commodity, everything the value of anything goes through its monetary value. How much can I profit from you? Thus, your friendship is profitable for me. So we have these relations, these commodified relations, that we are human resources. We don't have really human relations these days, basically, because we all have to think about what do we gain or what do we lose with it. That's how we operate. That's how the existing system conditions us to operate. And we don't even think about that. So nationalism is not the true a solution for globalism. What I mean by that is, one thing is that every nation, every country needs to be sovereign. But it doesn't mean that sovereignty is transformed into a nationalism as a flag, to create patriotic values that create most of the time that make us feel superior, that make us feel unique, that makes us feel the God chosen people, or the whatever. And that again is the part of the mentality that always serves the elites. And that is the problem exactly with that we should, as ordinary citizens, we should not buy into it, because we are buying into the kind of narratives that always enhance the control of society by these elites, the same elites that are behind globalism, which means they are the plutocracy, and they are the and the oligarchs that control the wealth, control the resources, control property, control institutions. They want to control it at the national level, and they want to control it at the international level. But those who pretend to be pro-free market, it is the same. They seem to be pacifists. There are many of them. They want peace. They don't want interventionism. They are against the American interventionism, which is a good thing. But they don't understand that as free marketeers, they are also defending a system that in the long run, or in the medium, they will build the same kind of order. Because they believe in inequality. They believe in this meritocracy, this myth of meritocracy that is against a level playing field. So internationalism is we need to build an internationalist culture that makes us understand at the individual level, a national level, community level, national level and international level, that it makes us understand that we need international cooperation and solidarity as the only way to have a humanistic, ecological, holistic civilization. Okay, this is all for today. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon.